Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulil Kareem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To our dear live audience guests here in the studio and to the viewers at home, welcome to another episode of Talk to Me. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to talk on a topic that's come up again and again. Some people may even have become bored of the topic, the issue of Islamophobia. The question I'm going to pose is Islamophobia. Have we turned a page? Whether that page is forwards or backwards, you at home, as you listen, can decide, and we can get the feedback from the audience here. About 5 or 6 months ago, there was an article in The Independent. The article title was, "New Stats Confirm What We Already Knew. Islamophobia is thriving in all parts of British society." More recently, the famous British Pakistani Muslim actor Riz Ahmed, who was quite a Hollywood success, made some very profound statements about what he feels about his identity, and even his recent small video clip on showing a very horrific scene of what has many messages inside what may happen in Western society here. I want to ask a question about Islamophobia. We have somebody here from MEND. We have some social active people here, socially active on social media, people here who are active on social media. We have some brothers here, some sisters here, and a variety of backgrounds. I want to hear from you, where do you think we're at? Are we going forwards or are we going backwards? Over to you, the audience. Yes, this is Brother Muhammad Shaib from MEND. Okay. Inshallah, MEND is an organization which is basically Muslim engagement and development. Yes, inshallah.
The question is quite interesting because we could look at it in both ways. Islamophobia, we could say that we're turning the page backwards, such that Islamophobia is increasing. We've seen the statistics that
maybe
every
that's
year,
because you're able to monitor it more.
We've seen the statistics that every year it is increasing. And that is a good point, that maybe it's because people are being more confident in reporting. But actually what we're seeing is that from the cases that MEND have taken, is that many people, especially the sisters, are feeling more afraid of reporting to the police and feeling more comfortable reporting to institutions like the Islamophobia Response Unit. So this shows you that even the statistics from the police, it is increasing, showing you that actually there's a problem there, not just because there's increased amount of reporting, but the actual figures that are coming out of the amount of hate crimes that are there are increasing every single year.
And how many cases are you dealing with at the moment?
So the Islamophobia Response Unit in MEND is dealing with almost 600 cases, or has been dealing with almost 600 cases to this date. Yeah. At the moment, the cases we're dealing with is almost about 100. Okay. There's 100 different incidences of Islamophobia.
Let's take a step back. Someone talk to me about Islamophobia. What's Islamophobia? I'm going to take Bashar here, then I'll come to the sister here. Yes, go ahead.
Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Islamophobia is not something...
Because I think it's quite important to define these terms.
Well, it is an irrational hatred or dislike of Islam, i.e. Islam is a rational creed built upon a clear aqidah of Islam. The first Islamophobe, you could say, was Iblis, and all those who follow this madhab or this manhaj follow that. Now, Rasulullah salatu wassalam faced absolutely abhorrent Islamophobia in Makkah.
I want something relevant to 2020.
Yeah, I don't hold... the society must be held to account according to the aqidah it adopts. If you're telling me I'm free to practice my faith, why are Muslim women being attacked left, right and center? If people tell me that Islam is not under threat, why is that happening? Look, the simple answer is, don't look at the person that is spouting out what they're being groomed to do. The government, the media, and think tanks, right-wing think tanks, inverted commas I use. There's not much thought there, a lot of hatred. And therefore, point the finger at the right people.
Right, good. I'm going to take something from the sister over here. Quite clear you think there's an agenda going on here.
Absolutely.
Over to you.
I think whatever the government or the media say, it's down to us individual Muslims to set a good example. We live in a multicultural society, and if we're not good neighbors, people don't know, only ignorant people who don't know us will follow what the government and media say. But if they have neighbors around them who are Muslim and set a good example, they wouldn't have so much hate towards Islam or Muslims.
Right, okay.
I think it's mainly down to us as individuals.
So you think we're given a bad image?
As individual Muslims.
We're a threat to them. You think we project a threat to British society?
Possibly. Yeah.
Possibly. Ali Dawah, you're famous, you're well known on social media, you have lots to say always, whether it's Speaker's Corner or whether it's here. Let's see what you have to say about it.
So I was saying basically what the sister said, she's right, because when we talk about Islamophobia, we need to look at it holistically. It's not point blaming this person, that person, the far right. I believe there's a lot of parties that play a role. And like the brother said before, it was the skinheads. It was, they will call you certain words, if you're from a certain race. But now
Even if you weren't from that race, they still
exactly.
put you
So what it is now, that's changed now. Now people are like, no, we're not racist, we're not racist. Now they're Islamophobes, and they're saying Islamophobia is not a race. So they use that card. So they have that inner racism. They've just transformed it into something else, which is Islamophobia. So when we look at it holistically, as Muslims, when I've had confrontation with certain far right groups, you'll see that one of the main factors is that you have our society as a whole, the British general public. We're not talking about the far right. The British general public they are scared, and they have a right to be scared because there's attacks that's happening under the name of Islam, which is false. And all we're doing as Muslims is what? We condemn. We condemn. We condemn. Together, we all condemning. Well, the British public don't want to hear the condemnation anymore. Condemnation, they're saying we want to stop to it. As Muslims, what are we doing? The sister said something profound. What are we doing? We hear the stories of Muslims behaving in certain ways with their neighbors. We can change that narrative. How are we combating Islamophobia? Because it's easy to say, it's the far right, it's their fault, it's the government's fault, it's everyone's fault, and I agree with them, don't get it wrong. But what are we doing? Dawah is a part of our life, and that can change perceptions. I'm speaking to people who've come with animosity, literally swearing at me, and the cup of tea has changed the whole dimensions. So we need to look
grassroots kind of movement
of
to
course,
change it from your street.
We need to forget the leaves, we need to go to the root of the problem. And we need to ask ourselves a question, what are we doing that's adding on to Islamophobia? Are we doing enough?
We'll go to the sister. Thank you very much for your point, Ali. Yes, sister.
Yeah, I totally agree with the brother. With my reversion to Islam, I've said it before, I think on this programme, that I'd never experienced racism like I did when I joined the Muslim Ummah.
Join the club.
It is something that dawah is so important, how we conduct ourselves, how in everywhere we go, and integration once again is part of that. How we integrate, we can still be Muslim and do that and keep our
you don't think there's a hidden animosity towards Islam, the historical background,
but
the empire, the British have always got this issue with it. Yeah,
I think a lot of people, Muslims themselves, are really quite awful about the British Empire. It's all that hate. Why? What? Islam isn't that, is it?
What about our next door neighbours? They're not very far. What do you think about them? France.
Well,
Islamophobia is almost a legal policy there. Yeah, go on, yeah.
But it's on what we can do as an ummah, and we can only do that on a face-to-face way first. Lots of little better interactions with the people around us, our neighbours, neighbours, our community centres, the way we go to the mosque. If we're going to carry on parking on, I don't know, roundabouts and in front of people's drives.
Oh, come on. If you park in the wrong place, is that going to create Islamophobia? Islamophobia is deeper than that.
But it doesn't help, does it? It doesn't give a better view of us at all.
At all hours, yeah?
Anybody with the seed of Islamophobia in them, they're going to run with that. In fact,
this is good old classic racism?
So, maybe so, but I'm...
Going to get Basharat involved in here, then I'm going to switch it across.
There are 2 points.
The chap behind with the black hat.
There are 2 points. One is it's a false equivalence to equate some misguided Muslim who happens to do what Islam says is haram, and that being accepted as a predicate for Islamophobia.
Right.
Kill one, kill entire humanity. Not kill one Muslim, kill any human. So the Ma'idah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it plain. So you cannot compare the actions of a government apparatus and think tanks.
It's the media game, right?
No. The issue here is, look, when governments have policies, the empire just changed names. It used to be called the Ministry of War. It's called the Ministry of Defense now. Any colonial empire was evil and wicked. Whether there happened to be brown people, black people, white people, it doesn't matter. So you can't make false equivalences when it comes to Islamophobia. No Muslim sitting here supports any of that sort of nonsense. Islam actually condemns it. Whereas when laws are passed, like Prevent. Now, Prevent says Muslims are to blame.
Stop you people.
Well, 1 second, hold on. Northern Ireland has been the hotbed of terrorism for the last 51 years, more or less, over. It does not apply in Northern Ireland by virtue of statute. And when that was put to one of the MPs or ministers, he said, listen, it's to do with Muslims. I'm paraphrasing. So With regard to what the sister said and the brother said, where we do agree, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Call to the way of your Lord with the best of words and the finest of preaching. And if you have to discuss, jadala, the verb to debate or discuss, do it in the most excellent way. So look, Muslims generally are good neighbors. We are helpful. But equally, there are bad non-Muslim neighbors and there are very good non-Muslim neighbors. And so it's for both sides. To use these as bases or predicates to say they're either somehow acceptable for the justification of hatred. And the sister touched upon racism. It's very true. The Race Relations Act was passed. You had to pass a law to say you could not be racist in this country.
Yes.
It's been over 50 years. There's still racism. Look at the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. Look at Windrush. At the heart of government. Right? Therefore, let's call a spade. Good old English proverb, yeah? Which is, go to the root of the problem. Don't look at the branches.
For you is?
Which for me is the government's abdication of responsibility for all of its citizens.
So you think this whole thing is at a very governmental level?
Predominantly.
Right.
Predominantly.
I'll take your comment there, brother, please. And then one of the sisters here, I'll take you, inshallah ta'ala, at the end. Yeah.
Probably beg to differ with Brother Bashar in terms of the, obviously from that's one perspective to look at it.
It's quite easy to say these things in a very freedom of speech orientated country, yes.
It's something deep rooted within the psyche, you can say, of individuals. Like when we compare, for example, in my experience at work, two different people, you'd say typically white, that haven't had experience of other cultures, they would fear the unknown straight away if they see myself. Which is natural. Like Brother Ali, he mentioned, quite clearly as to this is a natural reaction. Whereas the same kind of white, English, indigenous, brother that has grown up alongside Somalis and Algerians, straight away he knows the deal when it comes to Salah, when it comes to Iftar, all of that, he knows that. And one thing that we wanted to do with my organization, Ramadan Legacy, we were actually focusing on grassroots in schools, right? Doing piloting a UK-wide Islamophobia kind of awareness, as well as not just subhanAllah, organizations like MEND are doing a terrific job in terms of raising awareness, but that deep-rooted psychology that they're getting from their parents, right? Those same people that Brother Bashar had mentioned, the skinheads, those people that were getting hyped off the rivers of blood speech, for example, those individuals, right, that are fueling that racism, that narrative within the homes that needs to be tackled by the schools, we believe. And there's these schools, subhanAllah, if you speak to them, they're very open to this, very open to running workshops, very open to having parents.
That exists.
You just have to go out there. Masajid and organizations have to go out there, speak to these schools, inshallah.
I'm going to have the comment from this brother here on the end, please.
Yeah, fundamentally for me, Islamophobia is rooted by politics and media, right? So
again, sorry, I didn't catch that.
Politics and media. So it's been mentioned
change the politicians and change the media, and we're all fine.
And I don't think it's a new phenomenon. When the first Islamophobic incident in the UK was probably in the Victorian times, when Sheikh William Rahimullah was around. And the first female revert at that time was Fatima Elizabeth Gates. During that time, they were targeted, they had bricks thrown at them, they had manure thrown at them because they were Muslim. But not on the narrative what we're going through in terms of post 9/11 that we're extreme or radical, is because they were part of a teetotaler movement where they were against alcohol. And because of that, because they were different, they were targeted. But why were they different? Because they were following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this isn't a new phenomenon, it's just evolved over time. And we need to see and we need to be clear in regards to, one, the structural Islamophobia that's coming from the top, and also in the ways that we tackle it. So the organization that I work for, Feed, is a huge social media platform where we're tackling Islamophobia by promoting positive news and inspirational stories, whereas in the media, it's very, very rare that they do this. For example, for every one good story there is for Muslims, there's probably about 25 negative stories regarding.
I'm going to come to you, Ali. Thank you, brother. I'm coming to you in a second. But he did mention sisters, so I want to get a sister's take. Islamophobia and sisters. What's the situation? Yes, because you are like an open target, right? If you wear hijab, you're right. It's like a green light. Yeah.
First of all, what I wanted to say about general comments that have been made. We've touched on a lot of things that are the root causes. I would say that it is governmental. It's to do with people. It's a bit of everything. Because the media have a larger scope. it seems to be more gender orientated. Like certain words are being used to
Muslim
describe
terrorist,
certain backgrounds of people or what happens, and then that word is being pushed. It's been pushed on and on over the years.
Yeah.
That is being ingrained now. It's like a drilling thing when you're teaching.
Yeah.
And I think, and then it's also ourselves.
So how are you going to overcome this then? How can it be overcome, if it can be overcome? Is it getting worse for you as sisters? Do you generally feel it's becoming worse for you going outside? I mean, mashallah, you're in niqab. Tricky, right? You don't care.
Well,
SubhanAllah. In all honesty, before I wore niqab, I think I saw more Islamophobia, and
Before
being just
now they just don't want to engage.
Perhaps, but
Maybe it's that letterbox thing, right?
Honestly,
bite the hand, yeah.
For me, alhamdulillah, it's been more of an opportunity to speak. I've spoken to people on the bus, on the road, my neighbors, people at school. I think it's just subhanAllah, the way you carry yourself as well. It speaks a lot.
Has anybody been a victim here from the sisters here of Islamophobia? You think you've been targeted, or a comment made, or a slur, or you've been intimidated? Yes, go ahead, sister, behind you, please, inshallah. Yeah, with the white scarf. Yeah.
So obviously it's different because when it happened, I was in Germany. Somebody tried to run me over with a car, but I don't really see it as a.
That's pretty serious, man. Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't really see it as a big issue because I wear my veil with pride. Sorry, and when I do so, I know that I represent my religion, and in case something happens to me, then obviously I died for my religion. I don't really see it as a big issue. Because in the end, the reason why I'm here is to serve Allah, and in case that is how it's supposed to end, then I thank God for the way it was supposed to be.
Okay, inshallah, jazakallah khair, inshallah. I take the comment here from the brother here. Yeah, give us some more of your information. I mean, if you're getting all of these so-called, okay, Islamophobic incidences, or maybe it's just a disgruntled employee trying to make a big deal. What cases are you actually dealing with? I mean, let's get to the nitty-gritty of does this exist? I mean, okay, we go to the media campaign, but who's are there people suffering on the front line?
Yes, there are people suffering on the front line, and you have to look at like an iceberg. The cases that you might see at the top are the cases you may see of hate crime on the streets, like what the sister said, getting run over, being spat at, slurs, whatever that may be. That's at the top of the iceberg. But below the sea level, you have the cases of discrimination, the cases that come from the structural Islamophobia that's being spoken about. We have cases coming from the
tribunals. You have a structure here. You have generally a judicial system that gives people rights.
So you have these cases that are coming from workplaces, discrimination, and when these cases are being taken forward, there is no actual legal definition of Islamophobia to ensure that the criminal justice gives justice to these people who are being affected by it. And when it comes through structural forms of Islamophobia, it's even harder to find any sort of legal standing for that.
Give me an example of structural Islamophobia.
For example, you had a case of a sister that was being abused at her workplace, being called a terrorist, being spat at, and for the whole year, she used her internal complaints process and nothing happened. Nothing happened until she approached our organization and we were able to help her.
Right.
But you can see there that because of that, these kind of structural things that are in place that are causing Islamophobia to increase further are making it much harder for these cases to be heard. But some of the cases of hate crime, maybe they will get justice because there are many other legislations that can protect you.
Yeah.
But the bulk of these cases are being affected through these different structural Islamophobia apparatus and instruments that are being implemented through politics and media.
I'm going to take to the gentleman next to you and then to you, Ali Dao. But I do want to pose one question, which is...
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu
Your point.
Of course, Islamophobia did not start yesterday, really. As it was mentioned, Iblis, when Adam was being created. And also Quraysh, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they expelled him from Mecca and they stoned him also, he said, Ya layta qawmi ya'lamun. The same thing also in here, they do not know anything about the Islam.
Right.
What we need is a da'wah.
That's your job as an imam. That's your community. That's your mosque's role.
Yeah, but there is people better than me, I think, in da'wah. Maybe I'm imam, but only Quran and like that. But maybe those who were born in here should do their job. But many of them are not doing really anything. So they have to engage in da'wah. And not only giving the book, they have to speak to them. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, as mentioned in this ayah. They should also debate with them, talk to them, because I was listening that day, a man who was very racist and he hated Islam. I don't want to mention it, I don't know even his name. He said that I didn't know anything about Islam, but when somebody who's a Muslim man spoke to him about Islam, he accepted that Islam is nothing wrong with Islam. And from that day, he changed his mind 90%. He said, no more, he said, that I will be enemy to Islam, because he said, I was really being given, I was fed wrong ideas, yes, about Islam. That's what he said.
Thank you.
So we need da'wah really.
Thank you. Good point. We need da'wah, Ali da'wah. Talk to us.
I think the da'wah is bigger than me. But yeah, what I wanted to touch upon is like we'll keep talking about from the time of Adam alayhi salam, you know, shaitan, this is
because the average Joe doesn't understand that.
Yes, you're right. But the thing is, it's like we keep having someone to blame, like shaitan. On the day of judgment, shaitan's going to say, I only called you.
Yeah.
So you're to blame. So it's very important that I understand. Look, we've got the figures here from men. We've got valid points about the government, etc. Yeah. But the point is, what are we doing? Because it's easy to blame others, etc. We know a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 2 angels to destroy a township. And they returned back and said, oh Allah, there's a believer there. He said, go and destroy him first. Why? The angel said, why? Because he said he is there just worshipping Allah alone, doesn't give da'wah to no one, doesn't talk to anybody. Yeah. So it's very important and fundamental for us to understand that we need to make the changes ourselves. We can't blame anybody. We can't get rid of shaitan. We can't just go kill him and blame him all the time. Like governments. I agree with the brother. Like, don't get it wrong. I agree. But what could we do? If we're not doing nothing, we've forgotten the Quran and the Sunnah. We're too busy with our lives. And this is what happens, you know. Umar ibn Khattab says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised the ummah with the Quran. And if you turn your back on it, you'll be humiliated. And that's what's happening now. We are too busy with the dunya. We're too busy about my lifestyle. How am I going to make it better? You don't care. Until it comes to a point where in Nazi Germany, Nuremberg, do you think Hitler woke up one day and told his soldiers to start killing the Jews? It wasn't. It was a gradual process of dehumanization. The problem is, what are we doing to combat that? Because it's very important. The sister mentioned about Muslims being like having bad adab, etc. And we said, okay, that's not an excuse to be an Islamophobe. The point is this: if there's a narrative that's being pushed, and as Muslims we are adding onto that, because if the neighbor's looking and thinking, my Muslim neighbor, he's rude. Yeah. He's always. Do you think that's going to help the narrative? Do you think she's going to think, you know what? No,
ghettos, Birmingham.
But the issue is, if we have good adab, good akhlaq, when we're dealing with the Prophet ﷺ said, I came for nothing but to perfect good character. If we are good with people, wallahi, the whole media can put a narrative forward. The people will say, look, I know my neighbor. My neighbor every Ramadan brings me food.
You believe you believe the media is that sincere that it will.
No. The media can say what they like. I'm saying a genuine person, a British person, the general public,
from their
experience. They have good Muslims.
Yeah.
That media can repeat the same thing over and over again. They're going to say, look, I don't know who they're talking about because my Muslim neighbor is not that. Yeah. But can we say that today? Are Muslims known as honest, genuine? Are we known as that? Or what have we become? Selfish people?
Gangsters.
Well, yes, you call it whatever you like. So the point is, we need to look internally and say, what can I do? And we don't do that. And if we don't do that, don't expect changes.
We'll take one more last comment before we take a break for the first part. At the back, green shirt, please. Yes. You got 20 seconds, brother.
I agree with brother Ali Dawa, and I think we need to. Islamophobia should affect everyone. As in, it's one of those ones where if it's not affecting me or my family, then it's just another news. As a Muslim community, we need to understand our role in society. So, how many Muslim parents do we have as school governors? How many people do we have as local MPs, local councillors, local community activists? So that's where
participation and to be ambassadors for our Islam more, inshallah. Barakallah fiqh. Inshallah, we will return back. We're just going to take a break. I'll come back to you, sister, when we come back for part 2. Stay with us. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulil Kareem. Welcome back to our second session on this episode dealing with Islamophobia. Have we really moved forwards at all, or are we going backwards? Ali Dawah's points, thank you very much for those. I have one more contribution over there at the back with related to this point. Go ahead.
Jazakallah khair. I completely disagree with Brother Ali to some level.
Because he mentioned that, to summarize, he mentioned that if you communicate with your neighbors and being more involved with the community centers and so forth, and teach them the right way of living and how we live, how true Muslims are supposed to be, that should not be a result of Islamophobia. That would not create a result of Islamophobia. I disagree, because since October 2019, my wife has been harassed 3 times on the streets. My house has been vandalized and burgled. And for the last 2 years, my wife has been an active member of the community, helping out in community centers, teaching kids, Muslim or non-Muslims, teaching masajids, so dealing with the neighbors and so forth.
Can I just interrupt? You're probably thinking this is very superficial in terms of this kind of way to deal with the problem. What did your missus go through? What happened to her?
So on 3 different occasions, she was sworn at, racially abused on the streets, along with my kids. My kids were sworn at as well. I live in an area, predominantly white area. And most recently, my house got vandalized and broken into and burgled.
But was that just that vandalism incident? Was there anything that alluded to it being Islamophobic?
I believe, I strongly believe so, because it's not just a burglary. If it was a burglary, then would have come in, taken.
And what did they do that made you feel that's an Islamophobic?
They literally destroyed the whole house. They trashed all the furniture. They smashed the walls down. They smashed all the doors upstairs in the house, where there's no need for that. If you're going to burgle the house, you burgle the house. There's no need to trash the doors, and you can clearly see this originates from hatred.
Yeah, okay.
And she's been an active member of the community since we moved in that property,
right?
Where she teaches to kids, whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim in the community. We deal with our neighbors.
Are the police helping?
Pardon me?
Are the police helping?
So the local authority said to me, she goes to me, we have halal butchers in the area, so you can clearly see it's a multicultural area, so we can't really help you. So this is the response I'm getting. So,
but you're convinced that it was an Islamophobic attack?
I believe so. I strongly believe so.
Because of your wife being Islamically active?
Yes. Not only that, because my wife's a niqabi, you see. She's the only niqabi in the area that I've ever seen.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And it only happened to her.
Right.
And 3 different occasions around within a 1 mile radius in the where I live.
I'm going to go back to Ali, and then there's a comment there from the brother there at the front. I'll have, and then I'll take the one behind you, inshallah. Yeah? Go ahead.
Firstly,
Ali.
I want to may Allah bless your wife and protect her. Wallah, she's doing an amazing job. And I mean, in no way, shape, or form, I'm saying that when we do this, when we teach the true teachings of Islam, these things won't absolutely not happen. But there is a story of a king who asked a group of people in the village to go home and get a cup of milk and put it in a well. And they did this at night. So what happened was there was an individual. So he went home and he said, you know what? I'll get a cup of water. The rest are going to put milk anyways. So he went and got a cup of water. So he went, they opened the well in the daytime, and what did they find? They found water. Why? Because everyone thought the other person is going to put milk in. So what your wife is doing, may Allah bless her, amazing job. The point is that, is the rest of us doing that? How can we ask for changes when it's just individuals doing it? Do you get what I'm trying to say? And this is why it's important. So I agree that it's terrible what's happened, and wallahi, it's really saddening that your wife can't even go out in peace. But she's doing an amazing job. I wish there was many sisters and brothers doing the same thing, and then we will slowly see the impact, and I think that's where the problem lies. And I'm not saying ultimately that if every single Muslim was doing this, I believe Islamophobia might still be there, but not at its current stage.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take it over to journalists, part of the problem possibly, the way they portray things. What's your take on all of this?
As with so many other things, I think with the Muslim community, with Islamophobia, we are firefighting. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that this is a generational problem. We have not planted institutions where we produce knowledge and information about ourselves.
You've had Darul Ulooms up north for decades, man.
Yes, but
exporting the Quran throughout the world.
We speak to ourselves within our own little communities, but there isn't an institution which produces knowledge, information, speaks about us to the mainstream.
So unless we go out there, we're condemned? Is that what you're saying?
Partly, yes. And the model of Ali Dawah was doing an amazing job. We need the Dawah. But this model of trying to fight Islamophobia is really very, very small, very, very marginal. We need to be working and thinking on an institution of a much higher level of producing knowledge and information about us and challenge Islamophobia.
MCB is doing that for you?
I don't know.
MCB are raising a legal issue with this.
So I think
wanting to have a case against the Tory Islamophobia that exists.
Yeah,
potentially
it is
by
true.
them.
So it's come at a point where Islamophobia has become a huge monster now. It's a massive issue, and people like Boris Johnson did not win the election despite Islamophobia. You see, he won because of Islamophobia. People like Trump win because of the Islamophobia. It's become so normalized, whether in the US, in Europe, and you have a rise of far-right extremist groups. So in the next, I would say, decades or so, this issue is only going to get worse and worse and worse.
So
And
you
we have
definitely
to
feel
think-
we're going some pages backwards, or you think the worst
We've
is
turned the page. We've turned the page into a much worse scenario.
exacerbated problem? Yeah.
Exacerbated.
The chap at the back, please. Then I'll come to you in a minute. Inshallah. Yeah. Can I have your take on this, inshallah ta'ala? And then the sisters, if one of them, okay, I've got those two. Oh, the sister on the end. I'll have you next, please. Yeah.
Islamophobia is not just personal level, it is institutional.
Yes.
Like I'll tell you, among the GMC, they did some research and they found the fitness to practice problem among the BME doctors is much higher than the others. So it is racism. And in 2018, everybody knows the Bawa Garba case, the doctor. Yeah. She was Muslim and African background.
Yeah.
But in the court, finally she got her registration back.
Yes, she did finally.
So the racism is at the top level at the institution.
Thank you very much for that. I'll take a comment here from Mendik. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I think what many of the points that are being made is what the brother on my left said, is that it's a lot of firefighting. It's a lot of reactive solutions that we're coming out with right now.
So why are we
and
unable to be more strategic?
As Muslims, we need to be more strategic. We need to be more proactive. And I think sometimes we're not, because we can't see the deeper level of what is happening here. We don't have the knowledge to understand what is happening here. We're just looking at, as I said, the iceberg example. We're just looking at the top of the iceberg and we're not seeing what's going on at the bottom. And what is required from us is, yes, the reactive solutions are fine and they're well and they're good, but they're not going to sort out, if every Muslim is very good and all the cases of Islamophobia are being dealt with, that's not going to stop a brother being detained for terrorism offences unjustly. It's not going to stop a kid in a school being referred as a radical for saying cooker bomb, mistakenly saying cooker bomb instead of a cucumber. Okay, these things are not going to go away, and so we need more proactive solutions. And proactive solutions are Muslims being there on the ground, engaging with local delivery partners, engaging with the local stakeholders, the media, the local MPs, the councillors, working with them, lobbying them, working with our masajid, our churches, our synagogues, working with our schools, universities, and tackling Islamophobia in these different institutions from a ground level and working our way up. So proactive solutions are needed.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take the sister's comment. She should be waiting very patiently. Then I'll come back to you at the back there. Okay, inshallah ta'ala. If you can make sure he has a mic, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, about Islamophobia. There's a hadith, I might not be able to say it all properly, but about when we will be feasted upon. We'll be on the table and we will be feasted upon. And that seems to be the time now. So
easy targets.
Easy, yeah. There's many reasons for being an easy target, because I'm reverted. So what I've seen, reverted people, they probably mostly learn at the age that they revert, and they are at an older age usually, and they are getting to understand things. Whereas some people who are born Muslims, they've learned it when they were younger, and a lot of people do not continue with that, and and it becomes just ritualistic and just doing your namaz, your prayers, or doing Ramadan and things like that, and and just being with life, just going out there working and everything like that. So basically, what I feel is like, obviously, faith and believing is via trust. Trust is security and acceptance, and all this is connected to the heart. So, with the heart, we've got faith that is being guided. It's been mapped out. Everything is there, and it wouldn't have been there if it's not going to work. We wouldn't have been given this faith if it's not going to work. And then if it's going where it's going to the negative, and all this ignorance is being pushed further by the media, from people who do not know much about, lack of knowledge, not understanding, and then we are also helping to make that look more negative. We're not doing our bit as well, and so it's a bit of a catch-22 situation that people are able to feast on us if we have not got the right things
of outreaching to them.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that goes back to that inshallah. The brother there was there. I'll come to Ali shortly. Go ahead. Yes.
Obviously, there's a brother who said if you do something positive, there's a whole lot of negative comes across. Really, for example, I do teaching for kids as a volunteer work. Kids are on their iPhones and tablets, in the internet, Twitter, actually, and social media has a big influence.
Yeah,
and because if there are certain parts of the area, they haven't met the Muslims, they haven't seen a mosque, really.
Yeah, but that's why we have open mosques. We have open mosque days. We have Ramadan, the big date they call it, that takes place in Ramadan. There are some steps being taken to let people become less phobic about.
Yes, you're right. But there are areas which is just there are no Muslims. There's non-Muslims.
There are. Yeah, of course.
That's non-Muslims.
Even though it's difficult
they
to
haven't
believe.
seen Muslims at all. They haven't seen people praying.
Yeah.
And that's something new to them. And the influence is social media. And what they see is social media giving bad example to Muslims. And when they see non-Muslims, it becomes very negative to them because what they're seeing, what's happening outside Syria or Afghanistan, what they're trying to do at ISIS really is that's what they see. And it becomes
so it's the media portrayal which is incorrect.
Portrayal is very negative on
fuels
them.
this Islamophobia.
So it's giving dawah is important to us.
I'm just going to give a quote from, I know I'm a bit of an advocate for Riz Ahmed today, but he did make a quote very recently where he said, and having just come back from the Berlin Film Festival, it's, all too recent. It happened in Europe within a lifetime, within my lifetime in Bosnia, happening today in India, happening around the world, sadly. He was referring to the whole Islamophobia.
Yeah,
so,
just
go ahead.
Just to finish off the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, what the sister said, when the Sahaba asked the Prophet ﷺ, said, would it be because being feasted on, is it because we were little number? He said, no, you're going to be great in number.
Yeah.
So what does that show you? We're going to be great in number. We're great amount of Muslims, so there must be a problem. Like, what are we doing wrong? If we're great in number, what are we doing wrong? It comes back to, if we look at the Battle of Badr and the Battle of Hunain, in the Battle of Badr, there was 313 Muslims against 1,000, and then they won. And then if you look at the Battle of Hunain in Surah Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it, and it says, like, for example, that you trusted your numbers, you thought you're in great numbers. Success relies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have abandoned His religion. So you can be great in number, it's irrelevant. This is success. It's got nothing to do with numbers.
As opposed to the quantity.
The hadith says that you're going to be great in numbers. So what are we doing? We're not doing nothing. We need to turn back to our religion, and that's how Allah will honor us back.
Thank you very much. I'll take a comment here from the sister here. Yes, go ahead, inshallah. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I do agree with this. We need to ask ourselves, why are we being targeted? And just brother said that we have abandoned. Islam is a rich religion. No other religion is as rich as Islam. And this is the reason why we are being targeted. And Allah has given us the opportunity.
Targeted by who?
But Islamophobia, all around the world. And
National Front existed, that's what we have.
Yeah, but now, now Allah has given this opportunity that no other religion has got that much media as our Islam is getting. So we need to use
media.
Negative or positive, doesn't matter. It's on to us to change that from negative to positive. And how we are tackling it. Allah has given this opportunity. We are going to be proactive and be strategic and portray what actual Islam is. It is on us. And I'm so happy that even Ofsteds are tackling this Islamic schools. So that is the best stage that we can portray what Islam is, show them. And once if the true fact of Islam reaches to the people, I'm sure they will understand and they can accept it. It is all onto us.
Thank you very much. There's a sister who did take the Islam that came to her. She accepted it. Go ahead.
I agree with what the brothers are saying, and I still endorse the fact it is to do with us and how we go out and present ourselves and even accept the box of chocolates as well as give the box of chocolates. I feel that some of the brothers' perspectives are coming from a very, very Muslim area or lifestyle. How often we're saying we're inviting people into the mosques? How often are Muslims going out into the broader society of Britain? Why am I still a surprise when I go places? Why are Muslims saying to me, "What exactly are you?" As well as, you know, wherever I go, I am the only Muslim there. Why is that? I don't think I'm doing anything wrong within our religion.
Needs to be known by the community. Yeah, can I have a comment there by that brother there, please? Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to.
No, behind you, please. Yeah, first, and then I'll have you next. He's got mic.
Yeah, so I think as the Muslim community, I think we've had it easy in the last 30 years. I think,
and you still have it easy and wonderful.
Well, I think yes. I mean, we've had it easy. I think we've built our masajids, we built community centers, but actively we've not been giving dawah to the community, to the non-Muslims. I think the recent dawah movement.
Maybe we're phobic of them.
Sorry.
Maybe we have a phobia against them.
I think so. I think, well, I mean, the recent dawah movements that's come about, they've definitely helped. I think obviously Ali Dawah is part of some of the movements. About 9 years ago, I mean, you mentioned about the mosques open days, but to me, these are reactionaries.
These weren't done.
These are reactions. The mosques are reacting to the Islamophobia. 9 years ago, I went to my local masjid and asked that we should be opening the doors to non-Muslims. Dawah should be given to. They turned around and they rejected the offer. They said that we don't. This is the mosque's not for this. We need to more focus on our ibadah
and the madrasa, and that's it.
But 2 years ago, the same local masjid, due to pressure, invited some of the movements, so 9 years ago they could have done this. I feel that we're sleeping at the minute. Slowly, but due to pressure, Muslims are.
Islamophobia is a good kick up the.
Maybe.
Kick.
Maybe yes, yeah. I mean, if you look at my relationship with my neighbours, it has improved because I'm giving them dawah. Recently, I found one of my neighbours, but I bumped into their social media site, and they were promoting anti-Islamophobia content. So I had to. I thought I had to do something about this. So just a small thing, but onion bhajis, samosas.
Yeah.
But that slowly. And I noticed our relationship improved. And just recently, I had a flat tire, and he helped me fix the tire for free. So just small things like this just makes a huge difference.
Hadith about أطعم الطعام, to give food, is a part of a phenomenal part of giving da'wah. Mashallah, we as Muslims are pretty good with our food. Yes, can I have the comment here from the brother here in front of him? Yes, and then I'll switch over, inshallah ta'ala, from the sister there on my left. Then I'll come back to you. Can I have you first? Yeah.
Just wanted to quickly make 2 quick points. I find it perplexing how us as Muslims, we hear so many tear-jerking stories from the past. For example, of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when he used to go to an old woman's house and clean everything up for her in her house. And then when asked, who is he? She didn't even know who he was. He didn't say his name. And yet today, we in our society today, when we talk to non-Muslims, they know everything about inheritance laws. They know everything about laws about having 4 wives. They know all these things, but they don't know these amazing stories about our past, about the things that we hold dear, and we say this is Islamic character. This is the way that we should live our lives. They have no knowledge about that. Where are they getting this information from? Because it certainly isn't from us. Let me tell you that, right? So that's the first point. The second point is, instead of having to firefight, I mean, this is just an ideal, right? But instead of having to always firefight, there is a religious group that is out there who they started out just like us. And over time, they were able to build themselves up in academia, in entertainment, in all forms of life, to the point where now, if you talk about them in a certain way, they have a definition for religious hatred for them. So these are things that, this is what basically, we're not saying we want to be exactly like that, but this is something that we should look at to say, how are we as a Muslim community going to develop ourselves? The point is, be educators of the people, because no one else is going to give them that information except for us.
Yeah. Jazakallah. Thank you very much for those points. Yeah, Prashad, go ahead. Yeah.
There's 3 quick points. 3 quick points. Firstly, all of what's been said about individual actions to call to the khair, it's all good.
Yeah.
But you're missing the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
Ideological, insidious decision makers for centuries have been playing this game. The great game, 1918. We're in the month of Rajab. 28th of Rajab, 1340, the Ottoman Caliphate was dismantled. Azan was banned. That was Islamophobia at its peak by Ataturk, by the way. And this month, it will be a century. since we lost a shield. When the Prophet ﷺ was facing Islamophobia, he did all of these things, but he did political actions because you're not a Anglo-Muslim only. You're part of an ummah. And إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا. You have to think about how Islam can be projected to humanity, not just your neighbor. And that was done by the Muslims, by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, who is mentioned by the young brother here, as a Khalifat al-Muslimin, not as some individual. Islam is political, it's economic, it's social. And as an ummah, Islam needs to be defended against state-level Islamophobia. You think we've got it bad here? China is one step away from Auschwitz and Treblinka. That's one end. Burma, Kashmir, India, and so on. And therefore, it is a global phenomena.
That exists.
And the answer has to be global. It must be Islamic from the Muslim rulership. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam told us, إِنَّمَا الْإِمَامُ جُنَّةٌ يُقَاتِلُ مِنْ وَرَائِهِ وَيُتَّقَى بِهِ. That verily your protection, whether it's intellectual, political, or military, is behind the Imam, the Khalifat al-Muslimin, and he protects you and you're protected from behind him.
Last, got a couple 2 minutes left. I want to flag up the issue of the legal protection. The Jews are very well protected throughout the world. What have the Muslims done to get legal protection? I want to raise that up with you guys in a minute after the comment from here.
Yeah, hi. Well, I've got 3 points I think that affect everything. The unity, foundation, and help. Unity in terms of each other, in terms of what the mush is doing, in terms of families, in terms of friends, in terms of getting together. There's still lots of separations amongst people, sects, and everything like that. The foundation, starting from the parents, knowledge. Seeking more knowledge, helping other people, helping your neighbors, whoever can see you, whatever. I think these are part of the package of what Islam is,
to be able to,
and what we need
reduce
to portray.
What you feel would then just reduce Islamophobia. Yeah.
I think that it can help a great deal when people are given knowledge and given an understanding, and they can see it for themselves. Because sometimes seeing is believing.
Okay, I'm going to close there. Legal aspect. Someone talked to me about the legal aspect. What protections do we have as Muslims? Is there any kind of legislative? I think we'll have the men chap here. Got 1 minute left just to clarify. 2 minutes we've got, inshallah.
So there's a law called the Race and Religious Hatred Law, which protects
any race, any religion.
So we need to clarify this. So this is the law that is in place at the moment that you can refer to. But actually, when it comes to the case of the Muslims, this law isn't very efficient, because what it does is that it looks at race as a geographical body of a community, and it looks at as religion as a set of communal beliefs.
Right.
And when as Islam and as Muslims, we fall under the religious category and we don't fall under the race category. Right. Whereas when you were mentioning about the Jewish community, they would fall under the race category.
Right.
And the threshold given for evidence for when it comes to racial hatred is much lower than the evidence that you need to provide for religious hatred. And so therefore the Muslim community, when somebody is being attacked for Islamophobic hatred, for religious hatred, and they come and that law is trying to be used within the criminal justice system, it's much harder for a Muslim to be able to get that justice than it is for somebody from a Jewish background, because the threshold between race and religion is very different.
Race is tighter.
Yes, exactly. And so therefore there needs to be a lobbying done on behalf of the Muslim community, engagement with politicians in order to change that particular thing. Because even if we did everything else, once the case comes to the criminal justice system and comes through the courts, that's where we will start to fail.
I think as we come to the close of this particular episode, Islamophobia is a topic which I think most Muslims will have come across in their own lives, whether it's from their own personal experiences or whether it's from seeing what they see in the media day in, day out. I think each one of us has their own battle to make sure we try to portray Islam correctly and try to reach out to the community to reduce those barriers so that people can see the true wonderful colours of Islam. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope these ideas have been giving you lots of food for thought. And inshallah ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect the Muslims and create a society where people truly live in an environment where they feel valued and there is equality. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.